What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Real quick before questions, we had 4 people sign up for our Patreon at the Jedi Master level this past week, which is amazing and huge. Thank you all so much. So, Kylie Petrano, Thane Clark, Starside Productions, and Tierney Legion, thank you so much for your support. That is amazing.
For our first question, Major Zuma asks how the Jedi mind trick is considered a light side ability.
Yeah, I don't really think that it is. And Light of the Jedi goes into that a little bit. Like, Elzar Mann is kind of a big fan of, they call it the mind touch at that point. But he kind of likes it a little too much. And Avar Kriss is like, why don't you chill it with the mind tricks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can see how it's helpful, like, when I'm trying to think of like when Qui-Gon, this isn't the mind trick, but he like uses the Force to calm Jar Jar down
and like makes him pass out.
Yeah. Is that considered a mind trick? I don't know.
I think a little bit. It's affecting his mind. What I think of is in the Clone Wars when like Anakin and Mace and Obi-Wan are all using the mind trick on Cad Bane.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, that plays out very dark side.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it looks like it hurts Cad Bane.
Yeah, because Cad Bane, like, isn't weak-minded, but they're trying their darndest to get through to him. And,
to break his mind.
Yeah, and, like, everyone at once doing it, that's just showing you the Jedi have definitely lost their way.
It's something where, like, I don't think it's inherently evil. I mean, it's manipulation, I guess, which it can be evil, but it doesn't have to be. It's an ambiguous thing, but I think of there's a quote from Dr. Affer that I really like, that evil is a measure of how much your choices take away someone else's. And I do think that a mind trick is taking away someone's choice, usually not a major choice. And sometimes it's like, I guess the ends justify the means, where Obi-Wan and Luke have to get past this stormtrooper garrison. So quick little mind trick, no harm, no foul. But
yeah,
it's, I guess, all about how you use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Qui-Gon was trying to get the part that he needed from Watto for free. He was trying to make Watto accept his Republic credits,
which are useless to Watto. So, like, I mean, all this stuff is a little bit like, oh, I don't know. It's not great.
It is kind of walking a thin line.
I mean, that's like,
the Jedi probably just use the honor code when it comes to mind tricks, and
they have to fill out a form every time they use a mind trick.
Oh yeah, a
TPS report?
A TPS report for every mind trick.
What else? Like, a lot of Star Wars to me is, you know, the power that you have, how do you use it? Are you using it for good or evil? And yeah, I think that sometimes it does. Like, what is your end goal here? Is it noble or is it evil? And so I think sometimes using a mind trick can be bad, and sometimes it doesn't have to be, but it's definitely like oh man, I could debate this for a long time on whether or not it's ethical to use a mind trick. It's an interesting question for sure.
I would love to hear George Lucas or Dave Filoni talk about this, and
it'd be fun to get like an ethics professor or philosopher to talk about mind tricks and what they think of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the Jedi's way of being like, I'm better than you, and I can literally make you think that. Brandon Velasquez wants to know if Palpatine's plan would have worked during the High Republic era.
I don't think so.
Yeah, this is similar to the Anakin question we got last week of like, would Anakin have turned out the same way if he were around in the High Republic era? And I think this is kind of the same deal. There wasn't as much chaos happening at the time.
At least until the Great Disaster, but even then.
Yeah, even then, like, he could have tried, but he probably wouldn't have had a Anakin, like, figure to...
I think it's just more about the Jedi and the Republic are not like corrupt at this point, or fallen, or however you want to put it.
Yeah.
Like the Republic over the course of the next 200 years is going to become corrupt, and they are not at the point of the High Republic.
Right.
And Palpatine needed that corruption to worm his way in.
Right.
And I think that it all kind of hinges on that.
The simple answer is no, probably not, but it hurts my head to think about all the variables.
Right. Like, I think that the High Republic, where we start in the story, we're seeing the beginning of the fall of the Jedi. We're going to see, like, what caused them to become what we see in the prequels. And not just the Jedi, but the Republic as well. Like, why did they go from, like, this idealistic government and order down into something that could be corrupted and turned by Palpatine?
Mr. J.D. Rice asks why it was impossible for a Jedi Master to take on more than one apprentice.
I don't see it as impossible. I see it as more like, you shouldn't do that. Like, I think training a Jedi should require your full attention.
Yeah.
It's the Ron Swanson quote, never half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. Like, focus on just training this one Padawan the best that you can.
Yeah. And, you know, this comes up when Qui-Gon goes to the council and talks about Anakin, and Yoda points out, like, you've already got Obi-Wan. Like, don't go cheating on Obi-Wan with this magical kid that you think is part of a prophecy.
But Qui-Gon basically says, I'm gonna do it anyway. And before Obi-Wan is a knight, he's got Obi-Wan with him, and he's got Anakin with him. And it's not like the council kicked him out of the order or anything.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have if he kept it up, but...
And Obi-Wan tells him, like, you would be on the council if you wouldn't continue to defy them time and time again.
Right. So I don't know that... I definitely don't think it's, like, impossible for someone to have trained two apprentices. It's more just like, I don't think you should.
Is that apprentice-I?
Apprentices?
Apprenti?
I don't know.
Going Fishing wants to know what the biggest difference between canon and legends is in terms of philosophies. Yeah,
and specifically they bring up, like, the Force and how it was written and handled. And I definitely do think that there is a difference there, especially when you look at the books, and they kind of deal with power creep the same way like Dragon Ball Z would, where it's like, well, we got to make the next enemy has to be stronger than Palpatine, and then the next enemy has to be stronger than that. So the Force, I think, got to be a little bit crazy. Not saying I didn't enjoy it, but there is that. And I also think that just across the board, it was a little less consistent, which, like, leads the fandom into, like, splitting into sects and how they all view the Force. And I think that especially the video games, people were introduced to the Force through a video game. And it's like, yeah, you level up and you get more abilities and this happens. And I don't think that was ever George Lucas's intent, but he was also, like, letting people play in his sandbox, so he didn't stop it.
Yeah. Everything was about power and, like, kind of wanting or needing more and more of it. And that's kind of a Sith thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that canon doesn't deal with that. But I just think the biggest difference for me is the inconsistency.
Yeah. Well, canon
content... Because you're right, the Sith always want power, and that's something Lucas has talked about a lot.
Yeah. Canon content talks a lot more about the balance of it all. Yeah, there are very powerful Jedi, Luke, Anakin, Rey, but there's always that idea of balance.
Darkness rises, light to meet it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, like, Legends has the Yuzong Vong, which is, like you said, power creep as far as the villains are concerned. They are literally, like, the Force
that's like
does nothing to them.
Right. That's a whole other conversation that like George Lucas didn't like the idea that he didn't mind the Yuuzhan Vong, because I think that like they were going to bring them into the Clone Wars, but he was going to change it so that they were still a part of the Force. He was like, every living being is part of the Force. So yeah, like the Salamiri in Star Wars Legends, the Yuuzhan Vong, anything that just was like, nope, Force doesn't work on me. He was like, no. Yeah. So there's that as well. But I see just a lot more, especially like when I look at Fallen Order, the video game, they took a lot of time and care to make sure that the way the Force worked, and you do, I don't want to say level up, but you unlock new powers, but the way they handled it was not in a video gamey way, in my opinion. I was very impressed with that. So I think that with the canon, it's not so much of like, yeah, anyone can come in and play in this sandbox. It's like, no, we're going to try to make this all more consistent in how we write it.
It wasn't like, kill 20 enemies and learn a new Force power.
Right.
Tony Batara asks, which Lord of the Rings character would make the best Jedi?
They throw out Sam, which makes a lot of sense. He is like the most pure of heart. But I mean, I feel like Strider, Aragorn. Yeah. He'd make a good one.
Yeah. I want to go more chaotic with this and say like Merry or Pippin.
I mean, I think I'd be hard pressed to say that any of them would be bad Jedi. Like even Boromir, yes, he is corruptible, but he is noble at heart. Like he ultimately does want to help. Mm. He confronts his fears, and so does Frodo. Like,
I mean, like Gandalf honestly was my first thought.
Yeah. I mean, he's already magic.
Yeah. He's kind of a Jedi already.
Right. And I mean, Saruman is straight up Count Dooku.
Yeah.
So
we can't...
Dooku was a Jedi, and then he felt like it's the same thing. Dooku, Jedi, falls to become a Sith. Saruman led the Council of Wizards, fell to the bad guys. So yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Same person. Uh-huh. So we can't count that because it's literally the same story.
I think every member of the Fellowship would be fine as a Jedi.
Tom Bombadil.
Well, he's straight up, like, I don't even know what to classify him within Star Wars.
Exactly. He's like the chosen one.
He's like the father. He's like a Mortis god. Or the Bindu. Ooh, the Bindu actually feels kind of right.
For him to be a Bindu or the Bindu.
Yeah, like someone who doesn't super take sides, but has a lot of wisdom and is immensely powerful. Yeah.
Definitely not Frodo. He gets distracted way too easily and falls down a lot.
I disagree. Frodo would make a great Jedi. He falls a lot, but he gets back up. Yeah. He confronts his fears and he overcomes them. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like audio commentaries for the films, and we're doing commentaries for the Clone Wars right now. This week's episode is The Box, so that's all available right now if you're interested.
On to YouTube questions. The Bleaker asks if we could see the Sith Eternal or the Night Sisters in The Acolyte.
Night Sisters? I want to say yes. I just think that would be really cool, especially if we're dealing with the dark side, which it says that we're going to. Like, I'd love to deal in more than just the Sith.
Yeah. I mean, both of these, I think, are very likely possibilities.
I disagree on the Sith Eternal.
No?
No. I think it's too early. I mean, I might be eating my words in a week when Darth Vader issue 10 comes out. Like, Darth Vader is going to Exegol right now in the comics during the original trilogy. So he's trying to figure out what Palpatine's plan is. As of right now, I think the Sith Eternal was a Palpatine creation. But, you know, maybe not. Like, maybe they have been around for a long time just chilling on Exegol.
That was kind of how I thought of it.
It's very possible.
And yeah, the fact that Palpatine somehow survived, they were just like, hey, cool, we have a new leader now.
Right. Yeah, like this is just like kind of my gut feeling about the Sith Eternal. I was under the impression that it was Palpatine's creation, but it very well might not be.
I mean,
like this coming Wednesday, I might be like, oh, I was way off.
All of Exegol feels very old.
Sure.
So.
But I wonder if Palpatine was like revitalizing it, or if all these people are just like stuck there.
Yeah. I don't know. I assume Exegol as a planet kind of just works differently, almost like Dagobah, where
it like exists in another realm of time and stuff.
Right. But I agree too about the Night Sisters, that I would love to see them pop up literally anywhere. I think the Acolyte would be a good place to do it, but they're a character that I'm like, this needs to be explored more.
Night Sisters, I feel, are underused. Yeah. I'm like always excited when they pop back up.
Mark Wilton wants to know if Luke knew Grogu was a baby when he came to rescue him. This
question specifically asked because Luke just brings an X-Wing, and it's like, what if it were a full-on adult? And we're like, all right, well, let's just cram in my X-Wing real quick. So
he's got like a car seat hooked up in the back.
I mean, I think that, yes, he knew who and what Grogu was. I imagine that when Grogu reached out on Tython, he telepathically contacted Luke. Whether or not they had like a full-on conversation or anything, I think Luke saw like a vision or something of this child that needed help. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I got space.
That is interesting. Like, what if Grogu wasn't tiny? Where would he have put him?
Maybe he would have had a little sidecar on the X-Wing.
Little training wheels on it. Training S-foils. Joseph Simpson asks if the Bad Batch will have a narration at the start of the episodes like the Clone Wars did.
I really like this question. And Joseph mentions that it's like war propaganda in the Clone Wars, which it is. And I was like, yeah, what if they keep that going, but it just really shifts tone, and instead of Republic, like, we're the good guys propaganda, it shifts into a more sinister Imperial propaganda, and we still get that narration, but it's different. And like right away, you're like, oh, this feels like the Clone Wars. It feels like the Republic, but it's not. I think that's a really cool idea to keep running.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels almost like, of course it would, but then my first thought also was maybe the very first episode doesn't have anything at the start. Like it's like very slow and somber start, no narration, and it just like goes straight into the story. And then maybe the episodes after the first one have like recaps and here's what's happening now. I don't know.
I think it's going to probably shift away from some of the Clone Wars things we know. I don't think it's going to keep like the fortune cookie at the start for some reason.
I mean, is it going to be Yularen?
Well, I don't think they're going to have narration. But I would like it if it did, even if it were just for the first episode. And no, I don't think it should be Yularen. It shouldn't be like a war across the Republic, but like still kind of cheerful. Like it should be like a more stern Imperial, like victory is ours and now we crush blah blah blah, and like,
yeah,
I think that would be a cool way to kick it off.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like if it's narrated by a character that we will know, or if it's just a nameless voice.
Could be Tarkin.
Ooh, that'd be good. Stephen Stanton.
Mm-hmm. We know he's in the show, at least for a scene.
Yeah, I like that. Kyber wants to know if Snoke actually was based on an original template, or was he a genetic creation of Palpatine?
Still up in the air, but this question is stemming from the Force Awakens novelization where Snoke says that he saw the rise and fall of the Empire, and he's been around for a long, long time. And in my head right now, I'm assuming that Palpatine literally created Snoke, like he said. Mm-hmm. I mean, he said, I made Snoke, and that could be like I made him what he is, but I think he literally grew him in a vat And then any memory that Snoke had was just implanted in him.
Yeah, I think all of his memories were fabricated and he was basically programmed. But it's insane to think about, and I just have so many questions.
Again, the Darth Vader comic is kind of exploring that stuff right now, so we might get some answers in the next week or couple months.
Yeah, and you literally do see these, like, unfinished Snokes.
Jar of Snokes.
In a vat of, like, gross yellow liquid. I don't know.
The pickle jar, right.
Yeah. And, you know, it kind of checks out in my book that Snoke was literally created by Palpatine because he looks really rough. And it feels like this was Palpatine's very first creation.
Baby's first clone.
And it maybe didn't turn out the way that he wanted.
Well, see, that like gets into even weirder stuff because the Rise of Kylo Ren comics suggests that he once looked a lot better. And like Kylo sees Snoke looking like that and he's like, oh my gosh, what did Master Luke do to you?
Well,
so
do you mean like Kylo has seen him before?
Yeah. So, like, it's very convoluted. Snoke and Luke had a relationship, according to the Last Jedi novelization. They knew each other. And so Ben knew Snoke. And Snoke, like, appeared as a kindly helper when really he was, like, pulling strings, trying to get Ben over to his side, to follow to the dark side. So at one point, it sounds like he looked much better.
Huh.
And then Luke and Snoke fought, and Snoke became battle damaged. But then we see the clones, and he looks like that out of the bottle. So
I don't know, like, maybe everyone's memories of Snoke are somehow fabricated and, like, put in their heads
maybe
by Palpatine.
like Dawn and Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, when Buffy's sister is created, like she's created by magic, and then anyone that ever would have known of her has memories like installed into their heads that she was always there. So yeah, I think that's a little much even for Star Wars, but who knows?
Ryan Smith asks if we could see a visual guide and an art of book for the High Republic.
I could see that happening. Visual guide seems really likely to me at some point, because there are a lot of characters to keep track of, and maybe when it's all done, maybe when all 3 phases are complete, they might put something out. Art of, also maybe, like, we've seen a lot of character concepts, and that's kind of it. So I am curious to know if they did a lot of other concepts for planets and stuff, but like the ship stuff, like the Vector, it sounds like they were mining old concept art. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that they did as much concept art for these books as they would for a movie, but the fact that they did any at all is kind of crazy for a publishing effort.
Yeah, I feel like any chance for them to make a reference book, it will get made at some point. Yeah, and I think both of these are likely, just because all the concept art for the High Republic just is so dope looking. I would buy that book, and lots of other people probably would too.
Maybe they'll do something like call it an ultimate guide or something where they just combine it into one. Because they might not have enough concept art for a full book, but if they were to just include it in the visual guide.
That's true. And then the art of books go into a lot of in-depth stuff about like how the ideas came about, and they've already talked about that at length about the High Republic. There's like a Disney Plus special and all that. So yeah, maybe they'd combine it.
That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.